Hi, welcome to Josh's Bookish Voyage. Today I'm going to be doing the Reader's Taste Tag. So I was not tagged to do this by anyone, but I saw someone do this tag back in October of last year. It was Literary Latina X. You should check out her channel. She's great. She hasn't made much content lately, but maybe if y'all would flood her with new subscribers, she might be inclined to produce some new content. I would love that. I think y'all love that too. But I saw her do this back in October. Thought I would do it too. The original booktubers was Sophia's Thoughts. I'll tag both of them below. And the basic idea here is we have book themes. No, we have themed questions that have to do with, our tastes in books. First question we have here, what is wrong with me? What is your favorite genre? Oh, okay. I would easily get it down to horror, science fiction, and fantasy. And there was a time when men were kind and the world was inviting. And there was a time when science fiction would have been dead last. And now I have to really reckon with the fact that it might very well be number one. And part of that is because science fiction can often delve into the horror and into the fantasy in a way that the intersection there just makes it really thrive. I think that's one reason why I really love Shauna McGuire, because of how she has a habit of, dipping her toes into science fiction, into fantasy, and into horror. That's a lot of her books like that. So I think I would go there, but I think I would put fantasy last. So somewhere between science fiction and horror. But the fact that I read more science fiction just tells you that I must like science fiction more. And I think I agree with that conclusion. What is the most difficult genre for me to read? And honestly, I really like this question. It's a great set of questions, but this one in particular, because it's not what is your least favorite genre, it's the one you struggle with the most. And I like that because for me it's historical fiction, and I wouldn't say it's my least favorite. I wouldn't even say it's a bad genre. It's something I like to read, but it's definitely something that I'm very particular with and something that I can often struggle with. I think part of that is going to be the tone, the setting, and how well I'm able to connect to it, the writing style, if it's classical, historical fiction, and all of that can lead to me not always meshing with a book, despite me, liking the premise and liking a lot of things about it, except for that one piece where I don't always connect with it in that key way that's important for me to really follow along. What is your preferred age range? Well, I think my prime time was between my 25 to 30, and now I'm out of that, so, it's the peak of my life has passed. No, I'm kidding. I don't know, adult? Is that what you mean? Is there more than just adult? Excuse me. I wouldn't say new adult. I wouldn't say YA, so I guess adult is the solid answer. This one just seems too short and easy. I guess I like what is my current age range, if that counts. So just, not new adult, but not old adult. Middle-aged adult? Am I middle-aged? I don't know, but that's what I like. So I guess to expand this question further than I think it really takes you, I don't dislike YA, but I think I made it clear on my channel before that it's not something I always appreciate, but I think there are certain writers who really break the mold, who I've talked about before, that I think absolutely do the genre really well. They really take the genre in a direction that I think is not so overdone. Anna Marie Michael Moore, A.S. King, and Shauna McGuire, when she writes YA, I think she has necessarily a different mold. She and Neil Shusterman, both of which I feel like write in the traditional mold of how you write YA, but it still feels enough adult and enough, well thought out that it still works for me. I have a problem with YA books being not as well developed. I feel like they can get away with less, like a low-end laptop. You don't need as much. They design it to do less, and so there's more caricature in our characters. The story isn't always as well fleshed out, and I feel like some YA writers who don't necessarily break the mold, like I think Shauna McGuire or Neil Shusterman, are still able to create a really well thought out world, very well thought out plot, and have characters that are fairly well fleshed out, even if it is geared toward a YA audience. And maybe it's wrong of me to suggest that a huge swath of YA writers are like that, but that's the impression that I get, keeping in mind that this is the kind of thing where bias could easily influence how I see things, because I'm necessarily going to cherry pick that which agrees with my preconceived notion. This really ties into why we should be thinking about critical thinking and cognitive bias. Question 4. Are you a character-driven or plot-driven reader? Should have read that differently. Are you a character-driven or plot-driven reader? I don't know why I read it like that. I think it's a bit of both. Like, I love a good character-driven book, and I think it can often work really well. There are also times where I feel like character-driven books do not work as well for me. I don't necessarily need a plot. To me, a character that is constantly evolving can very easily, to me, be considered a plot. If the character is the plot, that character solidly evolving as a change, as a person, to me works really well as a plot. I know it's not necessarily a plot, but that works. It's the definition of character-driven, I suppose. But then there are others where I feel like it's character-driven, but I don't see enough different in the character for me to really be interested. It's necessarily a character study, but the character study is done in such a way that it just feels dull. And I think that's where you need the right balance of it still being somewhat plot-driven, because you need some sort of dynamic change in our character for it to still be interesting to me. Does that make sense? Do I have a preferred perspective is the next question. And this is something that I never thought about before, to be quite honest, so I don't think I'm really prepared to say for sure, but based off of my lack of really thinking about it deeply, that doesn't sound right, but like my upfront answer would probably be third person. I want a third person perspective where I can see what's going on and get like into everyone's heads. But at the same time, what I mean by having really thought through it, I haven't stopped to think about different perspectives as I'm reading them and think how well I'm really connecting to it. But when I think about different books that I like, they tend to be third person, I guess. That said, I do love it when it's changed. I think something like the 5th season, its use of the second person is something that really adds something that's quite confusing, but once you get the hang of it, it really is quite immersive. It's really quite unique in how she tells a story there. N.K. Jemisin is the author there. If you somehow don't know, this use of the second person is so different, so unique, that alone is just extremely captivating. I could easily see that getting old, but for me, I feel like it does add to the story just as a mechanic of how the story is told. Like, that gives the story a new level, and I think that's something maybe I would enjoy more of if I saw it. I don't think it's necessarily the easiest thing to follow always, but quite the provocative way of reading. I'm looking at you at the camera and then looking off in the distance. I don't know why I'm doing that. This is what I do. Do I have a preferred tense? And I prefer not to be tense at all. I'd rather everything be nice and chill. No, I don't know. No, this is just like perspective. I haven't really thought much about it, but I do think I would say present tense. I want to be able to feel like I'm in the moment, living through it. I don't mind a good flashback, but I do find it, I guess, more of a disconnect from the story. I can think of stories that are entirely flashback. I'm actually reading one now. Sean McGuire's work as Mira Grant in the prequel to Rolling in the Deep Save of the novella. It's the one about the killer vampires. And I'm pretty sure like this is, I don't know, it's quite confusing because I'm pretty sure we're learning the story of a now dead ship. That's what it seemed like the setup of the book is. But we're getting the story broken between a documentary telling us pieces, then actual moments where it feels like we're in a present tense version of the event happening. And it's disconcerting. And I want to say it works, but at the same time, it doesn't work as well as I think it does. It's the present tense that's working for me. The use of the past tense component is just confusing, quite frankly, and takes me out of the story. So that's me saying why I think I would settle on present tense with my very limited perspective here. Again, these are topics I feel like would be really good for the next month. Stop and think about all these components to what you're reading and ask yourself, what tense is this? What perspective is this? Like, what are the different approaches that's going on here? Make notes of it and say, how well did this component work for me? And then really get to a conclusion. I think it's actually a very provocative thing to do. Will I do it? I don't know. I'm too lazy for that. It's an idea. I'm not going to dismiss it. I actually like that idea. Next up is, do you like series or standalone books best? It's weird to say best. Like, I like both. I definitely like both. Like, there are things that I think could be really good as standalone. Middle Game was really, really good. And while I'm super excited for a sequel, which is essentially more of a in the world sequel, not really the same, I do think it sort of cheapens the uniqueness and the excitement of it. Like, I love Shauna McGuire's other series, the Wayward Children series. But it's true that not all the books shine through as highly as others. And I don't know. I feel like the series as a whole heightens the overall experience, and it wouldn't be there if it was just one book. It'd be so limited. But then there are other books that I feel like really work in a closed system. But then again, I think if I had the option for more, I would always want more. I'm a glutton for punishment, okay? Give me more until I don't want more, and then we can stop. So to give you an answer there, I guess I would say series, but I certainly don't read more series than standalones, so I don't know if that conclusion necessarily matches with reality. Which do you prefer, long or short books? And again, which one matches with reality more, I'm not sure, but I definitely feel like I prefer longer books in the sense that they're more satisfying. I like the idea of planning to read a long book. The problem is, I don't necessarily always it's not always as easy to read. Like, I'm still reading one book that I started last month because it's so damn long. And when I do that, I can sometimes get detached from the story if it's too long, or I can get tired of it when I just put it down and maybe not even get back to it. So realistically, I don't know. Actually, that's another thing I should do. Like, what are my ratings as a function of page length? But that's, I'm sorry, I've been thinking a lot about statistics and benchmarks and how to do things like that lately for other things. But generally speaking, I like the idea of a longer book. Take Stephen King, 11/22/63. It is huge, way longer than that book needs to be. But I don't give a fuck. I like that. To me, it is an amusement park ride that you go on for the thrill of it. I don't need all this filler content, but I'm so invested in our characters that I really do not care. And a lot of people don't agree with me there. They want a perfect book, a book that really flows well and fits together as a whole. It doesn't do that, but it is a thrill to read, and that's why I love it. So as long as it's like a good long book, I like a long book. It's also just satisfying to say I finished this book. I love the page length, the girth of it. It's just very satisfying. Which format do you prefer best, or sorry, do you like best? And this is easy, audiobook for sure. Like, I read literally everything in audio. Even when I'm reading something that's not on audio, like say Survivor by Octavia Butler, that is something I converted to text-to-speech, or use text-to-speech to listen to while I read it. And sometimes I just do text-to-speech and listen back, and it's just easier than trying to sit down and read the words along with it. I'm just much better at staying immersed in a story when I can do something remedial, something that's mindless, like cleaning or something like that, or biking even, and get lost in a story. I really am really good at that. I really struggle when I try to pick up a book and read it physically with my eyes. It's just something that it's really hard for me to get immersed into the act of reading without my mind racing different directions. And it might seem weird to you, because I know a lot of people complain that audiobooks are the opposite to them. Like, the audiobooks are what allow people to sort of let their mind wander, and that's the opposite for me. It's when I'm reading a physical book that my mind wanders, and what makes it so damn hard to read, because I can read an entire sentence, I can read the words and be thinking about something entirely different, to the point that the words that I just read in my mind made no impression whatsoever. And it's a lot harder to do in audio. And if I am doing it, it's much easier for me to recognize it and just push rewind and just to be safe, rewind a little extra just to read through it. And that approach, it's just more honed for me. It's just something that really works for me and my style of, I guess, media consumption. And then lastly, what are you currently reading? And I'm in the middle of several books, but the book that I'm like most actively reading right now in this moment is the novella by Sean McGuire, in the pseudonym of Mira Grant, that is Rolling in the Deep, the prequel murder mermaid series. Damn it, I mean, here's the cover, but there's a name for it, and I should know it. It's not Rolling in the Deep, it's something, and I don't know what it is. It's a beautiful cover. That's what I'm currently reading right now. Because this tag is so old, I'm not going to tag anyone, but you know, if you haven't done this, please do. Once again, I just want to call out Literary Latina X, and I want to urge you to check out her channel and motivate her to come back and make more videos if she's up for it, of course. As always, thank you so much for watching. If you made it to the end, why don't you give me an emoji of your favorite food, because this is a taste tag. They can make it very literal. And as always, hope you all have a great day and stay safe. Goodbye, everyone.